And so a lot of people are kind of able to get their first client, right? Whether it's through Reddit, whether it's through a friend of a friend, whether it's through posting on LinkedIn. But then how did you go from that first one to number 2, number 3, number 4, et cetera?
Right. Yeah. Great question. And on the first client bit, I would say we sort of got lucky in that we had that client reach out to us. But if you're a dev and you're starting out and you don't necessarily have some connections like that, like one thing you can do is just like put out something cool, put out cool work where people will see that like, oh, this guy knows how to do, like in my case, generative AI, and the people's kind of, juices will get flowing, their creative juices, and they may reach out to you. That's happened to me every time I put out something cool. Even on Twitter, I will get people reach out to me and be like, hey, we're trying to look to build something similar. So you don't necessarily have to start with great connections. And I would say, like, as a founder, I think I have I've started with a pretty, how to say it, like a network that's not full of a bunch of rich and famous people just waiting to throw money at me, because sometimes I look at other founders and like, wow, you went to Stanford and like, no surprise, you got $1 billion in funding on day one or whatever, that was not me. And so like, you don't have to have that. But putting out great work is really probably the best thing you can do to get clients. In terms of the specific tactics we used, we've had success in a couple of different channels. So one has been outbound cold email and outbound LinkedIn.
So you've had success with outbound cold emails?
Yeah, shockingly. I did not expect it to work. Yeah.
How does it work?
So I went into I got referred to this agency. Another founder friend of mine said, yeah, they've done a good job. And so I talked to them. It's called the Veth Group. They're great. And I had a meeting with them and I was like, look, I want to be your best client because I need leads. So like, what do I do? Like, you tell me and I'll just take your suggestions. Right. And so they said, okay, the number one thing is just do what we tell you to do on copy. Don't fight us on the copy. And I'm like, okay, so what should we put in the copy? And they said, do this. And so our emails basically run something like this. The subject line is something like, do you like whiskey? And then the pitch is like, hey, we'd love to send you a bottle of Whistle Pig for one shot at pitching you on how we can help your company with generative AI. Clients are turning to us for process automation, help with their tech team, so on. Let us know. Something like that. And man, I'm telling you, that has opened so many doors, shocking numbers of doors. It's easily paid for itself in terms of the cost of the account with Veth. And so I've got like 50 bottles of whiskey at my house at any given time. And we're just like rolling through it for our sales appointments.
That's so interesting. And so let's say you kind of send that email out. Do you have a follow-up sequence or is that just one email enough?
No, there is a follow-up sequence. It's, I forget exactly what it is. Part of the reason that I got an agency to do it was like cold email just sucks. Like trying to manage all of the domains and all of the nonsense that goes into it. Like
email warming and all of those, the deliverability, everything.
Like I'm an engineer. I could figure it out, but I really don't want to. It's the same reason I pay somebody to mow my lawn instead of doing it myself. Like, please, someone else make this your problem. I will happily pay you. Right. So anyway, so I don't remember the exact follow-ups, but it's stuff like, well, how about would any mornings work? I think that's one of them. I don't remember. There's a few different sequences that they run. And yeah, it generates leads, believe it or not.
That's so interesting. And how much did this agency cost?
It's $2,500 a month. So not a bad.
$2,500 a month. That's very worth it. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So that's how your cold emails worked. Let's talk about LinkedIn outreach. So
LinkedIn outreach. So I use something called LinkedIn Helper, which is a little bot that sits on your LinkedIn profile and just messages people. And well, actually it does a couple things. It likes and comments, or no, it doesn't comment. I don't like the comment thing, but it does like posts of people. And then it'll go back and I think follow them. And then after that, it'll go and shoot them an opening message. I use the same pitch, like, hey, love to send you a bottle of whiskey. And it's a great pitch.
Oh, wow.
Like people love it. Yep. And so that's opened doors for us too.
It sounds like it's a lot simpler than people make it out to be. It's just having a good hook.
I'm telling you about what worked. I should also tell you about all the things that didn't work, because I
What
tried
are some of the things that you thought would work that didn't?
I tried so many things, and like probably all the things I tried would have worked if I kept going, but it was just the level of investment. So one thing I tried was like a webinar thing, right? And so like I got my buddy together, the developer I was with, we put on this webinar, and it took so much effort. Like 20% of the people who signed up came, and not that many people really signed up anyway. And we got like zero leads from that whatsoever. And yeah, so not a great solution. I tried Google Ads, freaking nightmare to manage Google Ads. If you're trying to do it yourself, they nickel and dime you in every possible way, and they'll get you clicks. But like, I was like, oh, I'm getting so many clicks. And I looked like, where's it coming from? Like, well, video games, like people on their mobile phone are clicking on your app. I'm like, okay, this is not like, thanks for the clicks, Google. I'm glad I paid for that. So like that was a pain. And I don't know, there's probably other stuff too. It's not coming to mind, but I tried a number of things, and these were the ones that seemed to work. Now, the other thing too is like after you get going and you do good work, then we have gotten referrals, and that's been a huge part of our business. I would say that's probably 50 to 60% maybe now.
Okay.
But in the beginning, we didn't have anything really to show, so except for like,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So
during the summer, I was starting to put together a fund, or I was starting to raise a fund, and there was this one cold email sequence that worked like magic, and the subject was intro. And I totally ripped this from, what's the guy who started Archer and...
Brad Eckert.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, right. The figure guy.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so the email was, the subject was intro. And then I'm reading out the email. It was, hey, so-and-so, my name is Omar Waseem, and I'm the founder of Aleph, a private accelerator for Muslim founders advised by partners at, and then I listed a bunch of VC firms. Prior to this, I was the first growth hire at Founders Inc., a venture fund / studio, and the CMO of an algorithmic stablecoin. We raised $20 million from A16Z and exited for $2 billion. Do you have time for a call? And every single person, obviously not every single person, but a lot of people, I think it was something like 60% reply rate, replied to it and said, yes, absolutely, would love time for a call. Here's my calendar link, adding my assistant, whatever. And the fact that I had intro, it was the highest open rate, especially because like investors, because that's the people we were targeting, are very likely to open intro emails versus, maybe a software engineer or any other person.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's genius. A 60% open or reply rate is like wild, like off the charts wild. That's amazing. One of the things I would say too is like, I was pretty excited by how successful the campaign was with cold email, but looking back, I'm actually not sure that it was that tactic that was so amazing, so much as it is that just there is a lot of hunger and interest in generative AI right now, like just a kind of ambient interest. And so it was timed really well. Yeah.
I think the timing and the product are a big part. Like even for this email, every single person I sent it to was a Muslim like investor or GP based in like the Middle East or the Gulf Coast. And so all of those people to hear about a Muslim accelerator based in San Francisco, that's very personally interesting to them. My roommate has an agency that I helped him start up called Founders Arm. Basically what they do is they connect early stage startups with virtual assistants, specifically that are meant for like growth. So like influencer marketing, cold emails, whatever. And I remember one of the first things he did when he started the company was he went on my podcast and he made the subject line, saw you on Omar's pod, and then comma, and then some like question. And he opened it with a picture of himself. And then he said, hey, and it's like some long email about how he wasted his time at his last company and felt like his whole life was a sham. And then he figured out delegation, virtual assistants, whatever. And the email was just funny. And so everyone was replying to him, and I'll try to get a screenshot, but they were like, yo, I love this email so much. This is the best cold email I've ever gotten. Want to get on a call just because of how good this email was. And a few months later, like, there was whatever nurturing sequence, and a lot of those people started to close. And there was like an aspect of, obviously they know me, they were on my podcast. So there's like 50 people. They know it's not just an email that's sent to everyone. Right. There's a level of personalization that comes from knowing that there's a warm intro, knowing that they watched their podcast, and then maybe being curious to hear what he would have to say about their podcast. And
Yeah.
every single person on my podcast is a startup founder. And he was
Yeah.
selling specifically to startup founders. And it was a very
Right.
targeted niche product. And so everyone would
Brilliant.
get on a call with him.